Welcome to Illuminati Silver's Inner Sanctum, where we tell you the truth about precious metals, economics, politics and banking. Today is Thursday, the 8th of August 2019, and we're going to discuss a rather technical version of the new Facebook's Libra digital currency platform, entitled Payments Go Off the Rails, where we look at the future potential of Libra, its attraction, and also some threats that it may very well face. Richard Windsor, who is a technology analyst at Nomura Securities for 11 years, became an industry leader in analysing handset software companies and is now an independent research analyst and industry consultant. He has written an article on this subject within the trade, the banking trade that is, and much of what we're going to cover includes that analysis. It's a little complicated, but we hope you find it useful. Payments go off the rails. Richard Windsor explains how Facebook's new Libra digital currency platform could bring radical change to the payments industry. Although the use of online payments, and in particular mobile payments, has soared, little has changed in the payments industry until now. But Facebook's new Libra digital currency, based on blockchain technology, could alter that. All the existing mobile payment offerings use an established payment system known as payment rail. These rails include Visa, MasterCard, China UnionPay, MoneyGram and Western Union. They are membership networks in which money can be transferred between parties for a fee, usually paid by a merchant. Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, Alipay and WeChat Pay all rely on these. The use of existing rails has made it easy for the digital ecosystems to get a credible payment offering up and running, but it has, in all likelihood, also prevented mobile-based payments from becoming ubiquitous. Because all these systems require the user to have either a credit card or a bank account, many mobile phone users are excluded. The charges levied for the payments also deter merchants, particularly in developing countries, from encouraging their use. In principle, peer-to-peer transactions could displace intermediaries, but these are typically more complicated and costly, and they lack features such as the insurance provided by credit card companies, which limits both their scope and appeal as a cash replacement. There is one fated mobile-based payment system, M-Pesa, in Kenya, which was set up when Safaricom noticed that people were using mobile airtime as money to make remittances. But to pay out, M-Pesa relied on the cash handling provided by the telecom operator, which has a widespread network of agents. It also relied on a banking system that can support liquidity to those agents, which is why M-Pesa has struggled to gain traction in some other developing markets. Regulation and vested interests are other barriers. Payments allow the transfer of monetary value. Cash, once issued and trusted, need no intermediary. All other approaches, however, require a credible go-between, such as a bank. A distributed network, such as the Internet, has no central administration. That is why engendering trust across it is the topic of so much debate, including the one about a potential solution, blockchain. This is where Facebook's Libra association becomes interesting. Facebook has launched a digital currency platform that it hopes will gain traction thanks to its network of 2.2 billion users. Everyone who installs the Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp service will have Facebook's Libra wallet already installed. This is much the same strategy that Apple successfully used with Apple Music, where every iPhone had it installed natively, making it much more likely that users would sign up. The first and most important feature of the Libra cryptocurrency is blockchain. This will be the backbone of the currency, enabling instant secure transactions and record keeping. The variant of blockchain being developed is said to offer, quote, high transaction throughput, low latency, and an efficient high-capacity storage system, unquote, which blockchains to date have struggled with. Second, Libra is asset-backed, a so-called stable coin. Libra's white paper said the currency would be supported by low volatility assets such as bank deposits and short-term government securities from stable and reputable central banks. This should massively reduce the volatility of Libra, as there will always be the arbitrage trade against its underlying assets to keep it in line. The volatility of existing cryptocurrencies is something that makes them unsuitable for use in consumer transactions. Third, it will be fully fungible, meaning that trading in and out of Libra should be simple and stable, with significant liquidity. This is a big advantage over other cryptocurrencies, which have proven to be difficult to buy and sell in practice. But as with M-Pesa, this means that Libra will effectively rely on the liquidity of the banking system. Fourth, it will be pseudonymous, which means that while users can hold one or more accounts that are not linked to their real-world identity, regulators and law enforcement will have the same visibility of the Libra blockchain as they do for regular currency and transactions. While this enrages the cryptocurrency purists, it will make it much less likely that the Libra blockchain will be used for illicit purposes. While Facebook is the creator, it will only have one seat at the Libra table. Control of the blockchain has been designated to the Libra Association, a consortium based in Switzerland. Founding members include MasterCard, Visa, PayPal, Lyft, Libra, Spotify, and Vodafone, as well as some venture capitalists. Absent from this list are the banks, which makes sense for a number of reasons, not least regulatory. If Libra succeeds, the banks will suffer a substantial loss of fees as well as volume. For Visa and MasterCard, the calculation is different. As the revised Payment Services Directive, known as PSD2, and open banking come on stream, it is likely that the intermediary role of card companies will shrink, and having a slice of a nascent payments opportunity is much better than potentially having no slice of payments at all. Libra is expected to launch in 2020, and Facebook will offer a wallet integrated into all of its ecosystem's services. Any third party will be able to offer a wallet, and because they're all based on the same blockchain, they will be fully interoperable with each other. This is the most interesting attempt to digitize currency seen so far, because it promises to offer scale, and with that, low costs and high liquidity. To bring safety and security, the transaction data will not be available to Facebook. Police and regulators will have access to real names, and the funds are backed by fiat assets. And to boost financial inclusion in developing markets. But those promises can be called into question. There is a reason, for example, why banks stick to financial services and do not get involved in other sectors. They could exploit their intimate knowledge of the performance of competitors, and both regulators and bank clients recognize this. So, are the members of the Libra consortium really only interested in supporting a cheap payment system? Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook's chief executive, noted in a blog post that, quote, many other companies will build their own services using Libra, unquote. It is hard to imagine that they will not encourage Libra users to click on a button that wipes out data privacy. That would give many of the firms in the consortium financial data that have so far eluded them, and open up a dizzying array of marketing opportunities. Then there is the promise, as Zuckerberg puts it, of a, quote, global digitally native currency that brings together the attributes of the world's best currencies: stability, low inflation, wide global acceptance, and fungibility, unquote. A cynic might say the US dollar already exists and that it functions perfectly well digitally on the existing payment rails. But people might not want the dollar to be the global reserve currency, or the costs involved. But they might not want Libra either. In any case, for Libra to be as stable as the dollar, it needs to be backed by it. Just as importantly, regulators are unlikely to be keen on a shadow system that has real scale. Zuckerberg suggests that Libra could be a great boon to global financial inclusion. Quote, right now there are around 1 billion people who don't have access to a bank account but do have a mobile phone, unquote, he says. As the experience of M-Pesa made clear, a mobile money network in developing markets needs an easy way of cashing out of that network into fiat currency, which means lots of agents and sufficient bank liquidity on the ground. After all, it is not likely that stallholders in developing markets will go digital overnight, and even if they did, many small companies, and not just in developing markets, might be wary of having their cash tied up in Libra. If nothing else, firms need to be able to settle debts in legal tender. It is also unlikely that Libra members will see much promise in marketing online goods to consumers in developing markets, at least in the near term. The bottom line is that money has to be a store of value, a means of payment, and unit of account. Libra cannot meet any of those requirements without the support of central banks, regulators, and a liquid banking system. Nonetheless, Libra could bring radical change. Quote, it has the potential to be extremely significant, unquote, Andrew Bailey, head of the Financial Conduct Authority, told a Treasury Committee on the 25th of June. Quote, it does raise big issues for the public policy world. At the moment, I would have to say, there is insufficient detail on it to really be able to understand what the business model is. We will have to engage very heavily. We're gearing up with the Treasury and the Bank of England, unquote, he added. Unlike Apple Pay, Google Pay, WeChat Pay and Alipay, Libra is not attached to any payment rail. This means it could work well in places where there is very low credit card and banking penetration. Once the infrastructure issues for cash management have been dealt with, it also has the potential to be a radically cheaper payment system. The fact that the entities with most to lose from this, among them banks, are heavily criticizing the launch implies that it has a shot at being successful, but as always, execution will be the key. This is where the Libra Association, which is just another industry consortium, may run into trouble. Industry consortia tend to be slow, bureaucratic, and arrive at business and design choices that are almost always the result of a compromise that is optimal for no one. This, aside from adoption and regulatory crackdown, is the biggest risk that the Libra cryptocurrency faces. At some point, payments will jump the tracks. Libra is potentially transformative, but open banking should start to gain traction later this year, and it may be the first real test of competition in payments. One home-baked by UK regulators. Disclaimer. Illuminati silver owners come from a background of banking, international wealth management and economics. Having now retired from these worlds, we are not qualified to give investment advice. Therefore, this and other productions must not be deemed to be giving such advice, and merely represent the personal views of its owners.